Namaste and greetings to all. I am Umang from Mumbai Tarun Bharat and Policy Advocacy Research Centre, and you are watching Bharatasya Sangeet Vishwanubandh Yatra. It is an attempt to trace the journey of Indian instruments and Indian classical music in interrelationship with world music cultures. Today we have with us Mr. Joel Veena. Welcome, Joel.
Thank you.
Joel has been traveling to India since his trip in 2007 to receive teachings and has toured the country and the world, giving a lot of concerts. Some of his prestigious performances include the 2019 Kumbh Mela Prayagraj, Azad Bhavan ICCR Delhi, NGMA Bangalore, the Ekal Ka Run Festival in Gujarat, and the Swaradeep Festival in Moradabad. In the Netherlands, Joel has performed at the William Tweek Concert Hall in Den Bosch and at the Codarts Rotterdam World Music Conservatory. He has also toured extensively in his native, the United States of America. These concerts include lecture demonstrations at the California Institute of Integral Studies and the California College of Arts. So welcome, Joel.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us in Bharatasya Sangeet Vishwanubandh Yatra. So let's begin with our questions. My first question to you would be, when did you discover you're leaning towards Indian slide guitar?
Yeah, it all started with a study abroad trip in my university days. Is that I signed up to be a student at the University of Delhi in an exchange program, and I came for a 6-month program to study Hindi literature in translation, actually. And for that course, they sent us to Mussoorie for a 1-month language intensive. And so in Mussoorie, for those of you who have traveled there, you know it's a hill station. So the roads are extremely steep, like this. And the shops, you know, the windows on the side. So at one point, you're walking next to the shop and the window is up here. Then you're going up and slowly it's coming down and it goes down below your feet. So in one such shop, I saw, just as I was walking up and it was coming down like this, I saw a CD of Pandit Vishwamohan Bhatt. And the cover of this CD, I was a guitarist at that time, was very intriguing to me because he is sitting there with this instrument in his lap. And I could see, you know, there's too many strings there. It's very mysterious thing to me. So I went in that shop and I purchased the CD. I took it back to our guest house and I listened on my portable CD player, and the sound just completely captivated me. You can say it was a moment of like epiphany. And I listened to that CD the whole night. It had, you know, Rag Gayati, Kirvani, and I decided at that moment that I had to try to learn this instrument.
Wow, that's very interesting. So back in 2007 and till now it's 2023.
That's right.
Lovely. So all these years, did the pursuit of Indian classical music change something within you?
Yes, definitely. It's a nice question. You know, one aspect of this music, as our viewers may know, is this concept of riyaz, of systematic practice. And for me, it was a big change to understand my approach to music as something that I had to cultivate within myself. Is usually from a Western music perspective, we would practice a particular song or a particular piece for a performance. Whereas in the Indian classical music, we do riyaz, we do practice so as to prepare ourselves to best present the music on the stage, or ideally in a devotional setting even. Some of the best music I've played has been by myself in my room, and you have to take my word for it, actually.
That is lovely. That is something that is a very personal experience for you, and you get to meet yourself newly through music.
Nicely put. Nicely put.
So, the bridge that lets you walk this path is this instrument.
That's right.
So, tell us more about the history of this instrument and about the instrument. How is it played? What is the anatomy of the instrument?
Sure. Let's start with the instrument itself, as everyone can see. So we call this Indian slide guitar. There are a total of 20 strings. I have 4 main strings that I play on. In this case, tuned sa pa, sa pa. And if you are playing a raga that does not use pa, or is more ma-centric type of raga, like Bhagyashri, for example, we would tune sa ma, like this. There's 1 chikari and 3 drone strings on my guitar, and 12 taraf, or sympathetic resonating strings, which are underneath here. These strings, we don't actually pluck them, is that we tune them to the rag that we are playing, and that hopefully, if we play in a very accurate and tuneful way, they'll ring out on their own. And so you can hear this sa. You can hear, after I strike the note, this blossoming of sound. And actually, if I cover these strings, it's a very deadened type of sound. So this is kind of the Indian technology of the instrument. This is the same technology that you'll find in sitar and sarod, sarangi, these sympathetic resonating strings. On the end here is a tumba. This is, mine is made out of wood, but on sitar it would be made of a gourd. Sarod, sarod has a brass one. This, its main purpose is that it balances the instrument in my lap, but it also adds some bass response to it. I play the instrument with 3 metal picks on my hand, 1 on my thumb, and 1 on my first and 1 on my second finger. And in my left hand, I use a steel bar. And mine is a little bit longer than other players. I prefer this longer style. And essentially, the bar is slid along the top of the strings, and I pluck with my right hand, such as... And so the instrument itself, the history of this instrument, originally came to India in the form of the Hawaiian guitar. And this was in 1930s and 1940s in West Bengal and Kolkata. A musician from Hawaii by the name of Talmoy and his family band came and had a residency at a hotel. At this time, Hawaiian music was like a global craze, is that in many international cities, it was desirable to have Hawaiian music at your venue. He and his wife were fantastic musicians. They attracted a lot of the attention of the good musicians in Kolkata. And these musicians started to play Bollywood numbers and Rabindra Sangeet on the Hawaiian guitar. A little bit later, probably in the early 1960s, a musician by the name of Pandit Brij Bhushan Kabra took a Gibson Super archtop guitar and added a chikari to it. So essentially it was a 6-string guitar, but he took out 1 string for the chikari, this high one. He, with the guidance of Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Saab, started to play ragas on it, and he was very successful. He is credited with basically making this guitar accepted in classical music circles by using techniques all from the sarod, as he adapted meend, gamak, jala, jor jala, all the aspects of a raga he was able to represent on that guitar. And that really came to international attention in 1967 with the release of an album, music album called Call of the Valley. And this was you can say it was a jugalbandi with Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma, Pandit Hari Prasad Chaurasia, and Pandit Brij Bhushan Kabra. And this album, to this day, has record-breaking sales and is credited with exposing a lot of the West to Indian music for the first time. Most notably, people like the Beatles first encountered Indian music and thought to seek out Pandit Ravi Shankar because of this album, Call of the Valley.
Wow.
And and so this rendition, this manifestation that we have here today is largely the genius of a craftsman from West Bengal named Baba Sindhu Biswas, who worked with artists like Pandit Vishwa Mohan Bhatt, Pandit Barun Paul, to make changes in the instrument to enhance its ability to play ragas. Things like sustain of the note is that my instrument is hollow from here down to the bottom.
Okay.
And this allows us to sustain the note for a longer period of time, and also maybe a deeper range of sound than what the Hawaiian guitar was able to produce, in particular bass. He also allowed for this Jawari bridge to be adapted to the guitar. And so this is the same bone type of bridge that you'll find on sitar. And that allows for this blossoming, this sympathetic string response that I demonstrated earlier. In addition, he also adapted, you could say, European guitar design of the arch top, which means that the guitar is very strong from here, and so it can withstand a tremendous amount of tension, which is uncommon for a lot of guitars, is you have to make some sort of accommodation for the fact that most guitars have 6 strings. Here we have 20 under a lot of tension. And of course the beautifying aspects too, is you have beautiful carvings here and inlay and all of these aspects that just make it more Indian in aesthetic as well.
Wow, that was lovely. Thank you. I would now ask you about the theory part of Indian classical music, since now you've mentioned that you were in India studying Hindi literature and most of the theory in music is in Hindi.
That's right.
So, how was your experience studying the theory of Indian classical music?
So
And to add to my question, how do you find it different from the Western theories of music?
absolutely. So most of my training with my teachers, my first teacher, Dr. Ranjan Kumar of Delhi, and now learning from Pandit Alok Lahiriji in Kolkata, this is really practical training. For the most part, is that we are sitting in front of our teachers, they are playing for us, and then we are reproducing and processing kind of between classes. And this is the way that you work your way onto the stage in this. In terms of theory, I have not had classes per se in the theory. A lot of this is something that I have pursued on my own, reading wonderful works of great musicologists, people like Deepak Raja, fantastic writer of a lot of books, in particular his Raganess of Ragas, fantastic book that opened a lot of insight for me. And that also led me to reading about the aesthetics of the music, Sushil Kumar Saxena on the aesthetics of Hindustani music. Then, of course, going back to Bhakhandi, is that now, even as of this year, there are good translations in English of his landmark works.
Yes.
And so a lot of my theory study has been reading these works and then kind of reconciling what I've read with what I've practically learned.
Right.
And a lot of times, a teacher will tell you, you can't learn it from books, which is absolutely true. But the reading and the theory, it really enhances what I have learned and gives an angle of perspective and then kind of a richness to planning a concert too. If you think about aesthetics, what these great writers have written, then your perspective on a concert, it takes a little bit more of a deep angle, you can say.
Yeah, that's true. It does, as well as Indian classical music also has the ability to emote various expressions through the notes, through the compositions, the melody, and so on. So, what is your take on that?
Yeah, I love this idea. There's kind of like two perspectives in the theory about this. Is that one, and they're not exclusive either. They're kind of both can be true. One is this interpretation of the rasa theory, is that a rag will have a certain emotional content kind of assigned to it from the granthas, from the treatises of past. And so the idea being that we try to play that rag in such a way as to stir that particular emotion in ourselves, and then as a result in the audience. And that's a beautiful practice. I've attempted to do that. I try to think about that sometimes when I play a raga that has longing in it. Something like Bimpalasi is said, when the sky is turning red, the day is coming to the end, and there's a longing and a kind of peace to this. And so I'll try to think about that and feel that as I'm playing. Then another perspective on this rasa theory, as far as I understand, as far as I've studied, is that the ragas have a range of emotion in them. All of the ragas have a wide range of emotions in them. Something like Bimpalasi could also be more joyous, or could be maybe if you are really furiously taking tones and a lot of technical aspects, and might have a level of anger or intensity to it,
Right.
or boisterous type of strength. And so this idea of kind of surrendering to the raga as we're playing it, and trying to, we are following the path that we've learned. We're trying our best to follow the path that we've learned, and then just listening. What are the phrases? What are the notes? What is the emotion that is coming out? And also the audience will give some feedback.
Right.
Too, is if you're sitting close enough to the audience, or you can see their faces, you can see a little bit of reaction as you're taking phrases, that kind of steers you in your approach. And so in that sense, I really like this approach of kind of bowing down to the rag,
Right.
and seeing where it's going to take
you.
Yeah.
Wow. So now, since we've mentioned about the rasas, the emotions, and since I would request you to take me somewhere.
Sure, yeah. I will try.
If you could emote a few expressions through this slide guitar and show us to our audience.
My pleasure.
Yes.
It's my pleasure. I will attempt to play some rag bihag. And bihag is typically thought of as a night melody. It has, it's said to have an element of sweetness, of romance, and I learned from one artist that there's an association with a small bird, and also maybe a sleepy quality. Is that the notes tend to drip down, and so it's a kind of sweet end of the day type of element. And this is kind of where we start with it. But like I said, it can embody a few other emotions too. So I will try to play some alap in rag bihag for you.
It felt as if I'm sitting under a sky full of stars.
Wow.
Wow.
Then
Thank
it's
you.
working. It's working well then.
Thank you so much. So now, since you've performed for us, I would like to ask you, which is your most memorable performance till date?
Definitely most memorable was the Kumbh in Prayagraj. That was an unbelievable experience because I was on a stage in front of like 10,000 plus
Wow.
people. It was I was part of a big program associated with Sri Ashutosh Maharaji. And I got to play a short rag Kirwani with my brother Suraj Nirwan. And just people as far as I could see.
Wow.
And they were extremely excited. In fact, they were almost more excited. You know, I said, "Mera naam Joel Veena hai." It's my honor to play here, and that for them was extremely exciting.
Right.
That I spoke a little bit and that I was there. And also just unbelievable production, cameras floating around and lights and all of that.
Right.
So that was definitely extremely memorable.
Wow. And in addition to that would be, which was your most fulfilling performance till date? Since you've mentioned earlier that most of the times it happens so that you are practicing at home and that is when you feel the most satisfied.
That's true.
But as a performance, which was your most fulfilling performance?
It's a nice question. I like that you've made a difference between this memorable and fulfilling. I think most fulfilling performance was in, I believe it was 2018 in Howrah at our Gurukul's, the Sir Sangam Academy of Music at our annual program. And that I played at a place called Bani Niketan Hall in Howrah. And I performed with my good friend Kees van Bokstel from Netherlands. He's on Bansuri, and Arpan Bhattacharjee on tabla. And we played Rag Yaman. And it was just a full house of this very historic hall. And, you know, up on the balcony are these large portraits of the famous musicians who had performed there. People like M.S. Shubhalakshmi and Ustad Zakir Hussain, Ali Akbar Khan Saab. And that was just an incredible experience and extremely knowledgeable audience too. That was maybe one of the first times that I performed in front of hundreds of people who really knew, you know, if I was coming on the sum and if I was following the raga. And so I got some very specific compliments from that concert, which I really treasured.
Wow. So the audience was well aware of what you were playing and it was very much in sync.
That's right, yeah.
Lovely. Now, after your most fulfilling performance, I would like to ask you, along all these performances, which was your most played raga?
That's definitely Rag Yaman.
Okay.
Even just this past weekend in Delhi, we played Rag Yaman. This is the raga that we learned first, but it's also one that has incredible amount of depth and range of expression. So it's something that we keep coming back to.
Wow.
Over and over.
Furthermore, I'd like to ask you, what do you think that raga has given you?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's given me appreciation of audiences through rendering, definitely. But, you know, in practicing it, Yaman is like home in Hindustani music for me. It's something that I just feel like I've had so much class in Yaman. I've done recordings. I have a lot of material in it. I have recordings of my teachers in Yaman. And so it's something that I can keep coming back to if I feel like oh, maybe I'm forgetting a little bit of these phrases or a little bit of approach or something, especially while staying in America, while staying in the West, not hearing so much Hindustani music. This is something I can go back to, and I can just go back to Aro of Aro, Rag Yaman, and I'm skipping Sa, I'm skipping Pa in Ascent, and then it's all kind of coming back to me, the flavor of everything.
Wow. Thank you for your answer.
Welcome.
Now, I would like to ask you, while practicing Indian classical music, there's a certain set of organization or a certain set of guidelines for practice, which we call sadhana or riyaz.
Sure.
So, how has the concept of riyaz and sadhana transcended from Indian classical music to the world music culture?
Wow. Yeah, that's quite a question. I see, from my perspective, is I'm very aware of the other artists from the West who are on a similar path to me. And when we meet and when I observe them, this is a theme among everyone who is doing good work, who is playing well and who is trying to learn, who is spending time in India with their teachers, taking talim, is that everyone says the same thing. They say, oh, I need to do my riyaz, and I like to sit and do my riyaz, or most commonly, I wish I had more time for my sadhana. It's something that we are bringing into our lives in the Western culture, and it's not there in the foundation. And so for a lot of us, it means changing our everyday life to incorporate riyaz into it. And so there's a lot of communication about it with our families, with our friends and loved ones. Someone that might say, like, why do you have to go home now? It's only 1 a.m. or something like that. Like, why are you leaving? Why are you leaving the party now? Or why are you? And they say, no, I want to be in a good condition in the morning to do my practice. And then the people are like, oh, but you practice so much. Why do you have to practice tomorrow morning? And we explain, it's an everyday type of thing, and when we miss a day, we feel that result. It shakes a little bit of that foundation of that relationship with the music, you can say.
Very interesting. How it has smoothly transcended into the other world, and how there are people who stick to it rigorously.
And I think it shows for those of us who try to keep it going. I think that when we sit on a stage in India in front of knowledgeable people, they'll say, he is clearly doing practice.
Wow.
And for me, that's a big boost.
Wow. So have you performed in front of the American audience?
Yeah, I performed there. Sorry, go ahead.
And how is their reaction to it? How do they respond?
It's pretty interesting, actually. Most commonly in America, there is a lot of new age type of music and a lot of fusion. And so there is this relaxation sort of angle and meditation sort of angle. And so I've played in places where, in Europe also, where I'll start to play and people will just like lie down and sleep. Which is, in one way, I'm happy that I'm playing in such a way that is so soothing that you can relax. But as a performer, it's very odd. It's like very like it's like okay, I'm not sure who I'm playing for or what's happening. And in India, you don't find that it's typically presented in a concert hall people are in their chairs or in a baitak. Even in a baitak setting, you have a lot of attention, even like more intense focus. But in general, the reaction is that it's extremely beautiful music and that it touches their hearts and touches their emotions.
Lovely. So, in your view, how have many of the Indian musical instruments gathered great attention in the world?
It's you can't really answer this question without talking about Pandit Ravi Shankar. He's somebody whose his extensive tours in the US and in the European countries, his association with the pop musicians of his time, really cemented sitar in the world consciousness, you could say. And so you'll find, even one friend told me a story about seeing a sitar player playing in a mall in Delhi, maybe in a pop-up musical festival, and some foreigners there, maybe some Europeans or Americans, saying, "Oh, it's Ravi Shankar," pointing at the instrument. And so they actually thought the name of the instrument was Ravi Shankar. And so that's how major his contribution is. But also, people like Pandit Ram Narayan, Sarangi maestro, his reputation in Europe is really unmatched among the Western classical musicians, the good string players, because he exposed them to an Indian bowing technique that they were previously completely unaware of.
Right.
And that has had a ripple effect over generations. It's actually changed the way that people play their instruments. And now you'll find people playing cello, viola, violin, all of these instruments with thinking about sarangi sometimes, or thinking about the Indian approach to violin. People like N. Rajam are tremendously well regarded in the U.S. and Europe. So you can say that the level of virtuosity and the depth of technique that the Indian classical musicians bring to their instruments and the tradition brings to the instruments have really made a profound impact on the world music culture.
Wow. And that quite well answers my next question as well, which was about the impact of Indian classical music on the global music trends. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, everything that I just said about technique and virtuosity.
Yes.
I think also aspects of performance have been affected, where in particular alap, as an aspect of our performances, you'll find in other genres of music now these long exploratory improvisational introductions, and this is really an Indian aesthetic that comes from the Indian music. You'll find this in New Age music, you'll find this in aspects of jazz as well in American music, is that there are a lot of jazz musicians who highly regard Indian music. I mean, famously Alice Coltrane, John Coltrane. They listened to Indian music and then they started to adapt the aesthetics and approach into their own music as well.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Joel, for being here. Now, I would kindly request you to play a piece for us.
Absolutely. So I'll present a short dune in Rag Desh, and Desh being from the folk music of the country, and I call this dune. This one is called Jai Love, Victory to Love.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joel, for being here. So this was Joel Veena from the USA, came to India, learned the slide guitar, and is an extremely talented exponent of the Indian slide guitar today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having
Yes.
me. Thank you.